Welcome to this free immigration help channel. Today is May 12th, 2023, and today we will be talking about the brand new visa bulletin that just recently came out for June 2023. I'm gonna say it right away without, so that you don't waste your time in case if you don't want to do that. There's nothing, there was no changes, unfortunately. I am personally myself really disappointed. Of course, I know a lot of you are disappointed as well if you're doing your research on the visa bulletin, if you're staying on top of that information, and if you compare, you have your I-130 petitions, family reunification process, and I know a lot of you will be disappointed as well, unfortunately, because there was literally absolutely not a single change on the June visa bulletin that just came out. I think it came out yesterday. But in this video, I will show you that it is exactly the same. I will talk about each specific category. I will use this opportunity if you want to watch it, if you want to familiarize yourself a little bit better with the visa bulletin, on what each graph means, what each category is, what the chargeability areas are, and also how to come up, approximate the wait times basically for the availability of that immigrant visa. Also, before I forget, I'm gonna mention in the beginning that I do encourage everyone, if you do have your whichever process your petition is in, all right, your family reunification petition, whatever process, whether it's still with USCIS or maybe it was already approved by USCIS and then transferred to the NVC, and maybe you're waiting to become documentarily qualified, or maybe you're already documentarily qualified and you are just waiting now for the interview. I recommend reaching out to the NVC. Be very professional, be very polite. I recommend reaching out to USCIS. I recommend reaching out to these government agencies, reaching out to local elected officials, and expressing in a very polite, very professional manner, but expressing your dissatisfaction with the way families are being treated. Because this is unfair. It's quite honestly, it is ridiculous, okay? Because priorities are being given to employment base, priorities are being given to the politically driven group that is popular in the news, the news media is talking about. Obviously, politicians are jumping on that because that is, media exposure for them. Obviously, politicians are jumping on stuff that brings them money, that has to do with investments, that has to do with employment based. But whenever it comes to the families, they seem to forget. So without further ado, let's start. I'm not an immigration attorney. This is not a legal advice. All the information in these videos are directly from the government sources. I don't come up with anything from my own. So we have May 2023 visa bulletin, we have June 2023 visa bulletin. I have May open right here and I have June open here. So I'm gonna scroll down on both so that both of the graphs are visible. The graph A, graph B, I will show you that they're exactly the same, and then we will talk about each preference category, we will talk about the chargeability, and we will talk about approximately how long each category takes. So if you're interested to maybe learn a little bit more in depth about the visa bulletin, stick around. So May, June, not a single change, except here it says June, here it says May. As for the graphs, everything exactly the same, not even a month of a change, which is especially disappointing. Because the reason why it is especially disappointing, because we have been waiting for a very long time because of that artificial backlog that happened during the closures during the pandemic. Finally, around March, April, May, we have finally started seeing some updates in the visa bulletin. So I actually kept saying in all of the videos that in the next few months we will find out, because we are now seeing the updates for everything. So we should be seeing updates from now on, being movement at least of a month, because a month elapsed. So you have to see at least, so for example, right now, if it is showing January 2017 for F1, for people who are still waiting for the NVC portal to be fully open, which I will talk about all this in detail in a little bit. Then now it should be obviously getting a month ahead, February 2017. So as you can see, not even a month. Not even a month. So literally somebody just went, copied the whole thing, and then pasted it into June, which is absolute shame on the Department of State, on the Bureau of Consular Affairs, on every single politician, on their policies, because families, that should be a priority, all right? But let me give you at least a little bit of some helpful information. Hopefully, I apologize for, a little bit of my own dissatisfaction with this, because, if you have been subscribed to this channel, if you watched any of my videos, I am myself an immigrant, I'm not I don't make this YouTube channel for money or for anything like this. I've been through a lot whenever it comes to immigration process. I'm familiar, I've seen a lot of cases. I myself have a few petitions. A couple of them were already approved. There is one that I'm still waiting on. So it's all personal to me. And whenever I tell you guys that you will be waiting for a long time, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, I don't say it as, well, just keep waiting. I say it with, what is the word? Empathy, because I understand it myself. I'm in the same boat. So let's start with the family sponsor preference categories. All right. The only people that the visa bulletin is applicable to are those that have the wait time on the availability of the immigrant visas. There are some categories that are called immediate relatives, like for example, spouses of U.S. citizens, children under 21 of U.S. citizens, parents of U.S. citizens. Those are immediate relative categories. So once you are approved by USCIS, your immigrant visa is already available. Your case is transferred to the NVC. NVC portal immediately opens up for you so that you can fill everything that you have to fill in there to become documentarily qualified. Once you are documentarily qualified, the case is then transferred to the local embassy for your beneficiary to go and get their immigrant visa. That's it. Obviously, it takes time. It can take, sometimes it's as fast as 7 to 8 months. Sometimes it's a little longer, maybe a year and a half, possibly 2 years. But roughly about a year, you are waiting for the the whole process of I-130. And if you're not familiar with the full process, what the family reunification process entails, I actually have a video specifically on that. So check it out, where I describe the whole procedure. So visa bulletin is specifically for people that are not in the immediate relative category, which is quite ridiculous because we're still talking about sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. We're talking about spouses and children of permanent residents. We are talking brothers and sisters, but these are not immediate relative according to the policies of the policy makers who have absolutely no clue. So we have 4 different preference categories. We have first one, F1, unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. There's also subcategories within each of those categories. So like for example, F1, they have F11, for example, which is specifically for unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizens, and F12, which is for children of unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. So as long as you're within that category, it's going to be the same date. You don't have to look by subcategory. Just look at the main category and you will be just fine. So there is F1, unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. There's the second preference category, F2A. They break them down into 2 groups. F2A, spouses and children of permanent residents. There's also F2B, unmarried sons and daughters, 21 years age or older. This is also unmarried sons and daughters of U.S. citizens, 21 or older. Keep that in mind. This is not just anybody, 21 or older. One day they will maybe update it. It would be good, but they still didn't. Third preference category is married sons and daughters of U.S. citizens. And then the fourth one, the longest one, brothers and sisters of adult U.S. citizens. If you want to dig a little bit deeper into understanding of exactly how many immigrant visas are issued, you can look at the statistics. You can find them in visa statistics. We're not going to go into that in this video, but you can find that information. Also, these numbers right here, they kind of give you a little bit of the inside of how it works approximately, but I wouldn't recommend getting into that too much, because it seems like these policymakers who wrote this stuff up in Congress, they don't really understand what they're doing themselves. So let's talk about the two graphs that we do the comparison and we make these rough estimates by. You will see that there are two graphs. There's a graph B, dates for filing, all right, and there's a graph A, which is final action dates. And since we're talking about June visa bulletin, let's actually switch to June. It doesn't really matter because it's exactly the same as May, but I'll close May so that we stick to June. Normally you would start with graph B because it's the dates for filing, and basically it is for people that have been approved by USCIS and are still waiting for the NVC portal to open up for them so that they can start the process of becoming documentarily qualified. All right. So we have a few different columns in the graph. There's obviously a column for the category, F1, F2A, F2B, F3, F4. We already talked about this. Chargeability areas now tells us which country it is from. And it's very simple. There's only 4 countries that have their separate chargeability area. It is China, it is India, Mexico, and Philippines. The reason why these 4 countries have their separate chargeability area is because the immigration numbers are higher from these 4 countries compared to everything else. That's why they have their 4 separate chargeability areas. And then literally all of the other countries fall under all chargeability areas, except those that are listed. These are the guys that are listed. So literally most of the people are going to be looking at this very first column. So let's talk about the dates now. For F1, we know it's unmarried sons and daughters of US citizens who are over 21 years old. If we look at this date, it says January 1st, 2017. It's a priority date. What does it mean? It means that people whose applications were accepted by USCIS, so their notice of receipt that they got from USCIS once they filed that I-130, initial I-130, January 1st, 2017, back in January 1st, 2017, 6 years ago, 6 years and 4, my math is horrible, so please don't, 6 years and 4 months ago, they are just now getting the full access to the NVC portal, where they can start their to become basically documentarily qualified. And if documentarily qualified, if you're not familiar with what it is, if you didn't get to that stage yet, if you want to have an idea, actually, not just idea, if you really want to fully understand what it is, I actually have a good video on this. And I'm not saying it's good because I'm good in anything at all, but it's good because I was really lucky to get an access to a real, obviously with a permission from the person who really got documentarily qualified. It's a real NVC portal, and I show everything, the fees, what applications you will be filling out there, what documents you will be submitting. So this video is uploaded to this channel. It's called Documentarily Qualified. What does it mean? Something along those lines. You can find it here. Now, if we are making some rough estimates, and if you want to make, from becoming, approved by USCIS and actually getting full access to the NVC portal, now, looking at this date right here, we can roughly estimate 6 years and 4 months, I think. If my math is horrible, so you probably make a better estimate, but 6 years. I'll just stick to the year, because if I get into months, it'll be bad. Moving further to F2A, now you probably might ask a question, why is it C? C means it's current. It means that right now, there isn't more applications than the available immigrant visas. However, this is completely fake, and I don't know why Department of State just put unknown. Just put unknown, and that's it. It's much better than putting C, because it's not C, it is not current, and you can verify that by just scrolling up to the A, which we will talk about later, the graph A, and you will see that there is actually, from becoming documentarily qualified, there is still a wait time for people in the F2A category. So I don't know why they would not update this, but C means current. It used to be current, but it's no longer current, which is sad. Moving further to F2B, Now F2B, like I said, is unmarried sons and daughters, 21 years of age or older, of permanent residence. So we'll scroll down to F2B, and again it's showing January 17, so it's practically exactly the same as F1. Scrolling down to F3, which is married sons and daughters of US citizens, and it is right now showing February 2010. So February 2010, it means that there is about 13 years of waiting just to get access to the NVC portal. That's not weird. We're not talking about getting immigrant visa yet. Not yet. And then the F4, brothers and sisters of US citizens, February 2008. My math is a disaster. So this is 13 years plus 2 years, 15 years. I think I calculated correctly, but you can calculate it for yourself. February 2008 for F4. But this is just a graph B. Again, once you are approved by USCIS, your case is transferred to the NVC. You will have all the login credentials. You will be able to log into the NVC portal, but you won't be able to start the documentary qualification process. You won't be able to fill out those applications, pay the fees, submit the documents. You will be waiting until your priority date becomes current with this graph B before your NVC portal is fully opened up to you. And a lot of times, you probably might have been dealing with it yourself. You log into the NVC portal and there's nothing there. It just says it's not ready yet, basically. But once you do get to your priority date, NVC portal opens up and now you can become documentarily qualified. You can submit your affidavit of support. You can submit your DS-260, the application for the immigrant visa. You can pay all the fees, submit all the civil documents, and become documentarily qualified. Once you are documentarily qualified, we are moving to the graph A. That's what the graph A is for. And honestly, I don't even know why it's graph A. I think this should be graph B because you go through this first and then you go into this. Again, to me that says that the people are putting this together. They show no concern. They don't care about you understanding or not. This is really confusing. If you think about it, if you didn't spend time, a lot of time, it took me a lot of time to navigate through this. I couldn't understand it for a while. I don't know, but it is what it is, and I feel embarrassed, honestly, saying this, because I'm embarrassed for how horrible this system is, how horrible their treatment, how much disregard they show to one of the most valuable things that we have as human beings: family. All right, these are people who are legal immigrants who went through all of the process, went through interviews, paid the fees, went through medical examinations, and now they're inviting their relatives to come here. Inviting their relatives to come here, and their relatives have to go through all of this. And yet, everything is confusing and you have to wait for years in order to make that happen. But let's talk about the graph A now. This is a final action date. And final action dates refer to when the final action was taken on your case, which is referring to documentarily qualification. So final action is becoming documentarily qualified. And again, we are looking at the priority dates. So now we have the priority dates going a little bit back in time. Why? Because now between becoming documentarily qualified and actually getting your interview, getting that immigrant visa, there is still time that you have to wait. And roughly it is for F1, it is about, so since you become documentarily qualified, it is about 14, 17, roughly, well, it's January, December, so roughly 2 years. In the F2A, September 20, current, we don't even need to look at this because this is completely false, so it's hard to tell. But once you're documentarily qualified in F2A category, you are still waiting about 3 years, 2.5 years. As for F2B, roughly 2 years. I'm not even gonna count months because I'm gonna mess up. And then the F3, December 08, February 2010, again roughly 2 years. And F4, February 08, April 07. Roughly 1 year. And that's, I'm not even talking about the other chargeability areas. Obviously, if your beneficiary is in Philippines, then you're looking at the Philippines, Mexico, looking at Mexico, so far so forth. You get the idea. So basically, if you want to come, if you want to come down to that final number of years that you have to wait for availability of the immigrant visa for your beneficiary. Let's say if you're maybe thinking about filing for your brother or your sister, you are a US citizen and you're filing for your brother or sister, and you want to know how long the process is going to take. Well, a very rough estimate, if you file it today, April 07, that's when the immigrant visa is becoming available now for people who filed back in April 2007. That is, you know what? I'm gonna grab a calculator. 2023, that's why you see I do with legal stuff and not mathematical stuff. That is 16 years. Almost exactly 16 years. To bring your brother or your sister as a US citizen, paying the fees, going through the process, legally, going through the interviews, going through medical examination with like 17 different vaccinations that you have to get, and maybe more, because I had to get 17 vaccinations to get my green card, but I was able to show some of the vaccinations that I already got, so I had the vaccination record. If I didn't have that, it would have been much more. So you go through all of this, you jump through all of these hoops, and then you wait 16 years to invite your brother or sister. And for F3 category, married sons and daughters of US citizens, December 2008, 2023, 2008, 2023, 15 years. F2B, September 2015, 2023, 8 years. F2A, September 20, roughly 3 years, a little bit more than 3 years. And F1, December 14, 2023, roughly 9 years, a little bit more than 9 years. So these are the numbers, these are the dates. This is the new June visa bulletin. Sad, very sad, pathetic, I would say. Department of State, people should be embarrassed there, honestly. If you want to get a rough estimate and a little bit of better understanding or where are you at in the process, drop your questions in the comments below. In fact, I will do in the next probably 10-15 minutes. I'll get on it and I'll start answering the questions that I have received. As you can see, I have all the comments pulled up in front of me. So far I've been doing it every day, where I go through all the questions and I answer them and I post them same day. So if you have any questions about this, about how long it's going to take, just please give me your category, family sponsored, which category you're in, which preference, family preference, what is the chargeability area, your priority date. Obviously, it's going to help me to know if your case was already approved with USCIS, if it's already with NVC, or maybe you're already documentarily qualified. All that information will be helpful. Obviously, don't share the personal information, but just knowing that, I will be able to give you some rough estimates. So I'm very sorry for not such great news. I wish that there was better stuff. I wish that we could open this and go through and I could say, all right, we moved a few months in 1 month, great. But the only thing that I can think of right now is, well, we're gonna wait for July visa bulletin, and let's hope that we see some progress in July visa bulletin. But as for now, that's really it. So again, I apologize for not so good news. Appreciate you all tuning in. Hopefully this was helpful, at least maybe understanding how to read the visa bulletin better. Again, if you have any questions, drop them in the comments below and I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you for your time. God bless, and I'll see you in the next video.